Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa. Our headlines. Another deadly attack by Islamist militants hits the north of Mali. A soldier killed near Timbuktu. This a day after 2 UN peacekeepers died in an attack in the Kidal region. Police clash with students at universities in South Africa. The students calling for free education. They say fees are maintaining apartheid-era inequality. And Africans' fashions making a comeback in Liberia. We meet the designers behind the homegrown couture boom. First, there's been a second deadly attack in 2 days in the north of Mali. A Malian soldier was killed in an attack by Islamist fighters on a convoy near to Timbuktu in the northwest of the country. This once again highlights how volatile the security situation is there and the dangers posed by militant groups still at large. On Tuesday, there was an attack, this attack in the north of the country. Our correspondent in Mali, Francois Riouet, has the latest details.
The ambush took place while a convoy of civil servants was being escorted by defense and security forces between the towns of Gundam and Timbuktu. According to the defense ministry spokesman, Islamist militants assailed the convoy on 4x4 and on motorbikes. They managed to escape. A search and sweep operation is ongoing. 1 Malian soldier has been killed, 4 others injured. It's the second attack in 24 hours in the north of the country. Yesterday, a UN peacekeepers camp in Aguelok was hit by mortars. The quick reaction force was then hit by improvised explosive devices, killing 2 Chadian blue helmets, wounding severely 3 others.
Next, rare images from the Pool area of Congo-Brazzaville. People there are once again fleeing their homes after renewed violence between security forces and ninja fighters linked to Pastor Ntumi, a major player in the Republic of Congo's civil war in the late 1990s. But in Pool, tensions are still simmering, as you'll see. Nicolas Germain tells us more.
Several attacks have been carried out in recent days in the Pool region just south of Brazzaville. A train and an ambulance were targeted. The authorities blamed a former rebel group called the Ninjas, led by Pastor Ntumi.
The ninjas attacked a bus. The wounded were taken to Brazzaville, but then the ambulance was ambushed by ninjas.
The pastor's allies denounced a military occupation of the region. Ntumi and 2 of his advisors are wanted by the police.
There is a problem in this region because there are specific people who are wanted by the police. You know who they are.
The attacks have forced locals to flee their homes.
We heard the explosions, so we fled. With our babies, we spent the night in the forest, standing up. We wanted to go to Brazzaville, but village chiefs told us to wait a little.
The situation in the Pool region became tense following a deadly attack in southern Brazzaville in April. It occurred just as the Constitutional Court validated the controversial re-election of Denis Sassou Nguesso, who's already been in power for a total of 32 years. The government said Tumi's men carried out the attack and they then went looking for them in the Pool region. It's already in this area that the army fought against the ninjas for 5 years between 1998 and 2003.
South African police have fired stun grenades, tear gas and rubber bullets at student protesters demanding free education. Violent scenes rocking the University of Witwatersrand, or WITS, in Johannesburg. It was due to reopen this Tuesday after being forced to close amid clashes over fees. Well, campaigners say the cost of university education is prohibitive for many black students and is helping to perpetuate inequalities. We can now talk about this with Dr. Kelly Gillespie of the Department of Anthropology at WITS University. Dr. Gillespie, thank you very much for being with us. First of all, can you take us through the events that you saw on campus today?
Well, basically, we were in some kind of war zone on campus today, is all I can describe it as. There were riot police in full riot gear with rubber bullet guns. Tear gas was let off all over the place. Stun grenades were going off repeatedly throughout the day, and full details of private security as well. So it was just nuts. I spent most of the day in the campus health dealing with students who'd been wounded from being shot at by tear gas, stun grenades and rubber bullets.
Now, as we stand, is Wits University still planning to open on Wednesday?
We're getting mixed reports about opening tomorrow. The university is really rallying to try and keep the academic program going and really trying to maintain the build-up to exams, which are supposed to happen in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. But we're also hearing reports, and patently from what we saw today, I'm not sure it will be possible.
Now, speaking to you before we went on air, you were describing a real generational divide in South Africa between the government and the students at the moment.
I think what we see in South Africa at the moment is a very deep generational divide between an anti-apartheid generation, which is now in leadership, both of university institutions as well as the state, which simply, I'm not sure if it's because of that struggle history and therefore a sense that they know all of this and why would students be protesting, or if it's because they don't want to be challenged by a younger generation on their credentials. But there really seems to be a lack of leadership in terms of really being able to engage the students on what is ultimately quite a principled demand for access to free education in South Africa's new democracy.
And it is a very deep-rooted issue, isn't it, here? As a campaigner saying that the tuition fees reinforce apartheid-era inequalities.
Look, what we've seen over the past 22, 25 years has been year-on-year an increase in student fees in education, which is pretty much what's been going on around the rest of the world, given the slow corporatization of university education. But what makes it so complicated in South Africa is that that process has gone alongside what was supposed to have been a democratizing process. And so as Black students gain entry into university for the first time, many of them the first students, to go to university and families, they're being confronted with increasing fees year on year, and they simply cannot afford it. So this increase of fees and the privatization of higher education is really sort of cutting against the grain of any kind of racial democratization in South Africa.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Kelly Gillespie of Wits University for speaking to us there.
Thank you for having me.
Next, although Libya's UN-backed unity government is in place in Tripoli, a rival parliament is installed in the eastern city of Tobruk and refuses to give its backing to the Tripoli administration, calling it illegitimate. Well, the foreign minister of the Tobruk parliament, Mohammed Al-Dairi, was our guest on the France 24 interview. He said that Field Marshal Haftar, a powerful figure in the east, harbours ambitions to one day become Libyan president. Take a listen.
Marshal Haftar, on several occasions to Libyans, has said that if there had been a pressure from the Libyan communities to present himself to elections, he would do it. I think he might be presenting himself to potential presidential election that we would witness in the future after the end of this transitional period.
And you can watch that whole interview there from Wednesday, 4:45 p.m. Paris time, or watch it on our website. A bit of fashion now, and in Liberia, designers and boutique owners are leading something of an African-style revolution in the aftermath of the civil war. Liberians returning home from exile have been bringing with them a taste for local fashions rather than Western clothes.
Jodie Seton finishes a fish fin blouse for one of her customers. The Liberian college graduate runs a fashion store in the capital, Monrovia, offering her customers local rather than Western designs.
We want to represent our continent.
We want to represent our continent, and we want to put our continent on the map. So Liberian women have deemed it necessary to wear their own fashion because it brings out the realness in you, the real African continent, a real African woman pride.
In the past, Liberians adopted the style of the American settlers. But as Liberians in exile returned from neighbouring African countries, many brought with them a taste for traditional West African styles. The switch to African fashion is boosting business in a country that remains one of the poorest in the world.
Right now I've got 22 people, 15 tailors, then I've got the sales girls. I've got my little brother too, he can sew.
I got my little brother too, he can sew.
Customers say these local clothes are better suited to the extreme humidity and are cheaper than the European designs. But it also comes down to identity.
It's our culture that we dress like this. It shows leadership, and this is why I'm dressing like this. And it tells you that I am from a particular tribe.
We want to get away from this mindset of people wearing other clothes all of the time, especially the Chinese things.
After years of civil war, which forced tens of thousands to flee, Liberia's diaspora has largely returned, bringing with it a taste for African fashion and leading a style revolution.
That's it for Eye on Africa. The latest news coming up for you very soon.
Revisited, presented by Stuart Norval.
Freed from jihadist occupation in January 2013, Timbuktu has struggled to recover. Despite the permanent presence of French and Malian forces, the threat remains. Ongoing intimidation and the presence of jihadist sleeper cells are a cause for concern. Can Timbuktu cast out its demons and wipe away the stains of occupation?
Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.